Wow, that sort of worked. Looks like things are working. Yeah, sorry. It's Monday morning, and I'm back after being gone for a week. And not everything is working. Hopefully you can hear music and you can hear me and it's recording. But my large print chat screen isn't working. There's a whole bunch of updates that happened last week, and when I turned everything on today, I had spent a good deal of time updating and then making me restart, and yeah, just that kind of thing. So, after that happens, stuff sometimes changes and things don't always work the way they should. I think I got everything going except the large print chat screen. And that means that if you decide that you'd like to join in chat, and I hope somebody does, that would be really nice. I'm going to have to put on my trifocals and find the little spot. That's not it. Right there. There's like 3 millimeters of this lens. You see me moving it. There's like 3 millimeters of this lens that lets me read the small print chat. These, I don't know. Might be time to get some new ones. I got, anyway. I usually take these off while I'm painting because the part that lets me see close up is like just the bottom part of the lens here, very, very bottom. And then the only way I can see close up is to hold something like this and then tilt my head, and then I can't paint it. So I usually take those off, and when I take these off, I can't read the little print chat channel at all, although I can usually tell if, additional lines show up, little blurry lines show up, sometimes in different colors, which tells me that someone's in chat. Anyway, mostly working, I hope, except for the large print version of my chat screen. Relaxing Painting with Dice and Dungeons has returned after a week away. There's been a lot of travel and family stuff since like last November. So I know that this stream has been a little bit, I can't say erratic because I've notified everybody ahead of time about what's happening, but yeah, not consistent. I will be here until April. Yeah, I think the first week of April, because I have an opportunity to see the total solar eclipse in April. And I've seen one, and it's incredible. If you ever have a chance to see one, and that means that you can get to the place where it's happening and the sky is clear. So there's all those ifs, like sometimes they happen in places that you just can't get to, without a huge expense. And sometimes they happen and the sky is cloudy, and that kind of misses the point. So you have to have both of those things. And I was lucky enough, what was it, like in 2017? Yeah, we were the one that came across the center of the U.S. We were able to see it in Hopkinsville. And the sky was like totally clear. There were tiny little wisps of clouds on the horizon. It was an amazing thing. It was kind of fun. We got to stand in the parking lot of the Salvation Army, of all places. Everybody was out on the main street, so it was really crowded. We went a block off, and there were just like 5 or 6 of us there. It was really pretty cool. Anyway, yes, so until that happens, I think that's like a month and a half from now. Hi, Who. Yeah, I can see you popped up there. And that's there. I will do some flips. Anyway, welcome back to Relaxing Painting with Dice and Dungeons after I do some flips for Who here. Well, let's go with the big one. None of this is really breakable right now, so that's good. 2, 3, yeah, bounced right off of that. 4, 5, that didn't even flip. Yeah, it's mostly, they were just like 2 sears and a whole bunch of not sears. Not really sears because the S is missing, but sear, plural. Okay. Anyway, yeah, so welcome back, and I'm going to be doing some painting today, and I'm also going to be doing a little bit of work on the submarine. A week ago, last Friday, last stream before I went on the family trip, I was going to apply plastic putty to the seams on the hull and, well, the hull parts of the submarine. And I was going to do that because I wanted this to set up. It takes like 24 hours. And I thought, well, you know, a whole week is more than 24 hours. So if I could get this on when I came back, I could sand it and smooth it all down and get it ready for the final spray painting of the hull of the submarine, because the inside of it's done now. But when I took the rubber bands off and was about to apply this, everything fell apart, so I had to re-cement it. So that's what I did more than a week ago, and those parts, the re-cemented parts, are sitting there. Yeah, they should be okay now. So I'm going to take some time, probably after I finish this guy, maybe like after break or, you know, sometime later, and do the plastic putty part on the tail, the very, very stern of the submarine, and the fold down hull, the part that folds down. Okay, can't do that. Folds down on the stand. And then there's parts of the main submarine. There's a piece of the hull, the very, very top, where the missile hatches are, that I cemented on. And I don't know if that stayed on or not. So we'll have some maybe not relaxing moments. Anyway, I want to get the plastic putty on that so that maybe on Wednesday I can get that sanded down and talk about the last stages of submarine completion. And then Submarine Wednesday is going to be transitioning starting this Wednesday, because what I have left to do that I can show on the stream on the submarine isn't going to take the full time from more or less 10 until more or less 2. And so I'm starting another model, which is the Apollo spacecraft stack, which I opened about 2 weeks ago and found out, well, it's kind of a mess inside. So anyway, I'll be clearing a lot of this out, moving the camera up and opening the box, and pretty much just trying to figure out what I got myself into, sorting through parts and stuff like that, looking at the instructions. So there's not going to be very much painting, if any, on Wednesday, but there will be submarine near completion and Apollo stack starting, like a box opening event and a parts inventorying and that kind of thing. Yeah, so what I will be painting today is not this little guy. I finished it last week, not the week before last, before I disappeared. So this little guy got themselves a sack of gold and silver and a big gold nugget, and they're done. So I just wanted to show you that I did accomplish something at some point. And that one goes into the stand of completed things that are out of the way. Yeah, there it is, out of the way. And then I started working on this. So this is the same model as this other one, and I'm painting it pretty much the same colors. This one, I was told, this was done on a PLA printer. This was done on a rosin printer, so the detail on this is better. So I was told, well, you know, We just kind of threw this together and the detail wasn't that good. So why don't you take some time? Oh, look at that. Huh. That brown paint didn't cover that. I wonder what color I used. Stuff the cape here. But there are several spots on it that you can even see without my head magnifiers. There's weird stuff on this that I don't remember seeing when I was working on it. There's even a spot here. You can see it there. A little piece dangling down from the horn there that shouldn't even be there. Yeah, I wonder what color brown I used. I know I used native black on the black part. But I've got like 3 brown tones sitting here. Brown. I probably used red brown. I'm guessing I did that. Maybe I'll just repaint the whole thing. Because looking at it, it's really not very good. I did not do a good job on that. I'm gonna have to put my head magnifiers on and try again. Anyway, what I started to say, and what I will completely finish saying, is that I'm going to paint the body color, this red, okay, this scarlet red. And then, of course, there'll be some touching up that needs to be done with probably the brass, and I already see that there's touching up that needs to be done. I see what that was. That was a mistake. Yeah, there'll be touching up that needs to be done with the brass and the black, and maybe the white. Probably the black, because there's little ears here that need to be painted red. So yeah, I'll be using a little brush and painting all these little body parts here, like around there and whatever. And then the suggestion was, well, since this is fairly detailed, why don't you like detail the hammer and the shield and, you know, make it look a little fancier before you put the wash on. So I'll probably do that. And then the whole thing will get a dark gray wash, just like this one. Anyway, yeah, so I'll be hiding behind a head magnifier a good deal of today as I take a couple of little brushes and try to get the red paint where it belongs and not put it where it doesn't. Pick up the brushes. This is really going to be a Monday, isn't it? Yeah, so I know this color. I think I used this one. This was the red brown that got mixed, that mostly evaporated, and it's not really good anymore. But, you know, for that little bit in the back, it was okay. Anyway, welcome to Relaxing Painting with Dice and Dungeons. I have returned, and I am returning to painting things. Yeah, it's only used up 20 minutes. I try to use between 15 and 20 minutes of not painting before I get started because, you know. But the pointless monologue can only go on so long before it just totally runs out of steam. I don't know how much is left in this little bottle. We use this color, this scarlet red. It was like one of the very, very first colors that we ever got. I think we started with 7 or 8 different colors, most of them browns and grays, because we were doing a lot of dungeon tiles at the very beginning of painting, before we even started streaming. because we wanted dungeon tiles for our Dungeons and Dragons show, which streams 3 Sundays a month at 2. And past episodes are on YouTube and podcast. Anyway, yes, Scarlet Red. We actually started using this not on models, little minifigs, but on. We were going into a place that had red granite stone. And so it was. We painted it red. This red. It might even be this bottle. I don't know. It's been around a long time. And put black wash on it. It looked like stone when it was on camera. So that was pretty cool. I think I'll use the little itty bitty brush here. Every once in a while, I'm going to try to remember to look up at the chat screen, and if anyone is chatting, I will put my glasses on, because as I have mentioned, my large print chat screen is not working. This color, I think, is going to look pretty weird until the wash is put on it. Definitely red. And that's the color I want to match the other one. It's done. In just a bit after I get this dot of paint in the eyeball there. Yeah, I am on a screen. I started giving myself some visual aids, like I put an X there so I don't have to look up. But if I remember to look down, I can look to see if I am over the X. If I'm over the X, then there's a fairly decent chance that I am on screen. As I've mentioned, the last couple of streams I've been running out of this piece of the neck here. Not on screen. It's because this is the only way I can reach it. If it's even going to ever be visible. Paint's consistency is still pretty good, but it's drying really fast. And that also means it's drying right on the tip of the brush. A little brass touch up there. Right, bumped it because couldn't reach below it. one ear here. On the other side here, it's a little harder to see. Yeah, so you can see where the black got scraped off and where the brown, all sorts of flaws. It's I painted most of this without using the head magnifier, and it's pretty obvious that the result is that it's not that well done. Sorts of places where the wrong color is there, or it's painted at all. Probably shouldn't, I shouldn't get too finicky about this. That's a good word, isn't it? Finicky. I shouldn't get too finicky, because if this ever shows up on our Dungeons and Dragons show, it's going to be at a distance on camera, and you would never see these flaws in the painting. They would not be visible. Like a prop, I should say. I'm getting it on the brass part there. So this is more, I have to consider this to be more like a stage prop, where one is what you're going for is how it looks pretty much like at a distance, right? How does it look at a distance? Or sometimes, absolute accuracy of the painting doesn't make it look good, actually. I'm trying to do a compromise here between, it's not really a compromise. I'll just say that because this is a prop and not a display model, which would mean that every tiny little flaw in the location of the paint and the color of the paint and so on, every tiny little one would be intolerable. In this case, it's not going to ever show, and so it matches my skill level a little better. But still, I want it to look good. Try to get the paint on here as accurately as I can, and then come back and do touch up on the real obvious places where there's like dots of the wrong color, like there are in the brown fur bit of the cape, that where there's brass paint on it for some reason. The lines aren't very well defined. Once I eventually succeed in getting the red paint on here, back and do touch up with the brass and the black, and brown. And then I will spend some time embellishing some of the details on the hammer and the shield. I don't know how much I want to mess with the armor. Maybe not terribly much. But, you know, there's some detail on the hammer here that would be kind of nice to, you know, highlight. I'll use like a bronze or something. I don't want to get just something in the same color tone. And then here, what I've done before with these kinds of things, with these wings, is just do alternates. Or maybe I'll just do the edges, that kind of thing. I'm not going to mess too much with the shoulders and the chest, I don't think. Yeah. We've got the music is playing. That's good because I don't have anything much to say today. Talking about visiting relatives is, say, it was a pleasant trip. Everybody was to each other. We had decent conversation. Went out to eat a couple times. Ordered pizza once. And when we didn't feel like going out, the food came in. That was a little bit of a thing. That was almost an adventure. And this will tell you just how adventurous this trip was. Ordered pizza. And did it online, right? But apparently the wrong button got clicked. And you know, and we're all sitting around going, I'd really kind of like to have some pizza now. Wonder why it's not here. Wonder what blue, yeah, that's what I used. Okay. You know, why isn't there any pizza here? Because it was like 45 minutes ago. It was quite a long time ago that the order was put in. So maybe we should check what we did. You know, so the person who ordered the pizza, you know, somebody did that, so there was somebody to blame. That was good. We didn't get into a huge blame game. It was really, you know, it was like we were hungry, but not to the point where we would be really hugely grumpy about it. Apparently it was ordered for pickup and not delivery. The person who ordered it actually did it the old-fashioned way and called the place. And they said, oh yeah, we got the pizza here. Could you deliver it? And I said, oh, sure. You don't have to have it, you know, add a delivery charge, but that was it. I mean, that was the drama of the trip. So you can tell that there really aren't any other stories to tell. You know, when the most, you know, the thing that could have been, people could have been really rude to the family member who ordered the pizza and said, what's up with you? Can't you even do something simple like tell the difference between pickup and delivery? We could have had a big to-do about that, but we didn't. We just sat around and watched TV and waited for the pizza to get delivered. That's what happened. Pizza got delivered, and then we ate it, and there was no recrimination or any of that kind of stuff. So it was kind of a pleasant and relaxing family trip. Put my glasses on, somebody joined in chat, and I was not looking up because I was so engaged in trying to get red paint on this figure's legs here. And also, as I'd mentioned earlier, my large print chat screen isn't working because of some sort of update thing. Some update happened. Wow, this thing is really a mess. And I'm looking at it here with my 2x magnifiers, and wow, just all sorts of flaws in the paint everywhere. Real soon I will put my other glasses on and tilt my head so that the 3mm large size bit, not even that much, it's like 1.5 millimeters really, amount of the lens focuses on the chat screen. Check to see who's in chat. Say hello. Paint is starting to congeal in the little well here, and I want to get as far as I can. Yep, painting red on, putting red paint on this, whatever it is, sort of demon kind of thing. And after I get this red paint on, I'll be doing a bunch of touch-up. I've got to touch up with the brass and the white, well, every color. Every color is going to need some touching up because I'm just seeing all sorts of problems. Sorts of problems with the base coat that I did a week ago. A little more than a week ago now. It was not good. Very not, it's just really messy. So that's what happens when I do things without the head magnifier. And they look fine until I look at them with this, and then they don't. It's a different brush on the tail. Cleaning that in a bit. This brush is a little bit bigger, but the tail is kind of a large area that just needs to be paint it along, and that other brush is really good for like putting little dots of paint into things, but it's not very good for brushing paint along larger surfaces. This one, just kind of a rotation here. Yeah, because there's always some spots that just get missed until it's rotated in the right direction. And then the decision is, which colors get their touch up first. Okay, well, that's adequate. So let me take these off for a sec. That was just something getting knocked over. That happens with a fair amount of... It happens often. So this thing is now... It's got its base coat on. It's not done well, so I need to do a bunch of touching up. This is where I need a dot of that color. I need a little dot of that color. I need a tiny dot of that color. It's going to be that kind of thing. Sometimes the dots are so small that I won't even bother squeezing the paint out. I won't even bother squeezing a dot into here. I'll just take a little dot off the top of the bottle. And let's see. I'm a medicinal shy guy. At the forge. The forge. I think that could be the forge. The forge is an elf. I think this is just some random figure that, Alexis was looking for things to print on the printer that could be painted and said, well, yeah, let's do this. That's a thing. That's all it is. Okay. So I'm going to put these magnifiers back on because I can use these to see all the flaws. And then I'm just putting little dots of paint on. I'll be putting tiny dots of paint on to fix the flaws. Get enough off of this. A little tiny dot, little micro dot of blue. That was it. of the little blue dots. I'm done with the little blue dot. Get more paint on the paper towel than I do on the model. Now it's oozing out of the top of the bottle. Yeah. Now. And then a little bit of this black. There. Yeah, see, that's the kind of stuff it is. These little infinitesimal, tiny little dots. They're really infinitesimal. And I wouldn't be able to see them even with the head magnifiers. But they're pretty small. Well, that was fun. Do the brown. Yeah, and then the brass. Just shaking it up by hand. I'm not going to even, for this little bit of, oh yeah, this is great. Okay, what I might need to do here is digress just a little bit and clean the lip of the jar, because I don't know if this is the right brown. I'm pretty sure I used this brown. Pretty sure, but not certain. When it goes on, it doesn't look right at all. So I have to see how it dries. And if it's the wrong brown, then repaint the brown bit. It's just this little fur in the back here. And it looks like it'll be okay. All right, and then the brass. There's little bits of brass that needs to be touched up all over the place. And then after that, I will be doing some highlighting of some of the detail on the hammer and the shield, especially. Probably just those. And I think what I'll do is I'll use like a dark bronze color. Maybe on the hammer I'll use shiny gold, something lighter. And then on the shield I'll use a darker color. Just, to highlight some of the detail. I'm going to leave this uncapped, which isn't a really good thing to do. Don't recommend that. But I need to clean off the cap, the rim of the bottle, so that the cap fits a little better. I'll show this to you. So I'm going to take a little piece of this paper towel here. There's like a buildup of paint all around the cap. Maybe the cap doesn't fit tightly enough, or it just got, I don't know why, but there's paint buildup. Anyway, Do the brass touch-up here. So there's two kinds of touch-up with the brass. One is where I bumped into it with another color, and then there's spots that didn't get paint on them to begin with. But they all have one thing in common, and that is that they're tiny. So I'm just putting little dots of brass paint on stuff here. A lot of detail on the legs down here. I don't know if I have the bronze paint out and it looks like it's doing pretty well, I might try to pick up like some of these bits on leg armor. As much here as I thought there would be. Let's say these head magnifiers are really, really good. I'm going to be using these a lot on the Apollo, I bet. Just like on the submarine. The submarine had just tiny little detail stuff on it, so I had to use these quite a bit. I don't know what I'm getting into in the Apollo. I opened the box and I noticed that there were some parts shaken loose, and one of the bags that holds the parts was torn open. But the box was sealed with cellophane. So I'm guessing it's just because over time it got bounced around so much, because the box is beat up. That's why I was able to get a good price on it. Some of these models, people collect them, and they want them to be, they want the box to be perfect and still wrapped in its original plastic wrapper, right? So there could be nothing inside. It wouldn't really matter. Could be like an empty box wrapped in cellophane, and that would be for collecting, but I wanted to build it, so I was able to get one that was still sealed, or at least that was the claim, but kind of beat up. And on the inside, it must have been bounced around a lot, because on the inside, one of the bags was open in the corner and a bunch of the little parts had fallen out. Fortunately, the box was intact, beat up, but intact. So, doesn't look like any parts are missing, at least that I know at this point. There's a spot there that never got painted because it can't be reached. Anyway, that's what I'll be doing on Wednesday, is opening the box and starting to pick through the parts. Make sure that, that I've got what I need to build the model. Hopefully it'll be okay. And then I'll look at the instructions, which are inside one of the bags, sealed inside one of the bags, and find out what needs to be done to make this model happen. Okay, I'm going to look for polished gold. I want it really shiny. I'm going to use this one later on the shield. So I found gold. Here's the polished gold. I'm going to put some polished gold on the hammer, because why not? So yes, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, the Apollo model. So yeah, I'll be opening the box, and like I said, I opened the box and I found a little, some disturbing things, like some of the bags that were opened and some of the parts had fallen off, the trees, little parts, but the box was closed, and it's not torn, so they didn't fall out. Anyway, on Wednesday, I'll be doing a little bit more submarine work. I'll be sanding down the seams of the hull that I will be filling in a little bit later on this stream. And then, doing kind of a big reveal on whatever I'm getting into with the Apollo. That this is going to show. This isn't going to work. It's way... Did it show up on the stream? Yeah, I mean, you can see the difference. But it's not as obvious as I was hoping it would be. Yeah, in fact, it shows up a little better on camera than it does in my head magnifiers here. I guess I'll just do this, do it on both sides, and it will be what it will be. So just a lighter tone of the same sort of gold brass tone. But it shows up on camera okay. I'm kind of surprised at that. Pleasantly surprised, because as I'm painting it, it doesn't show up that much. If you get the light just right, it shows up pretty well. So there it is. There's some highlights on the hammer. They're subtle, but there they are. Since I've got this gold paint out, what the heck, I'm going to paint the wings here. I don't know why there's wings on the shoulders. I would think that, if you were serious about going into combat, that you wouldn't have these things protruding from the top. But there they are. I'm just going to paint them gold, just to, make them look even more like a target than they already are. Yeah, it's like why not? Got the paint out. It's pretty subtle. And again, it kind of shows up on camera better than it does here. The edges here. This, I mean, it's not going to show very much, but you know, it kind of gives a little bit of edging, a little highlight. You can see it on camera there. A little bit of lighter color there. I want the shield to show a little more though, so I'm going to use bronze on that rather than the gold. Maybe I'll do some intermediate with the gold. I'm not sure. Let me see. Yeah, maybe I can come back to it later. What I'm kind of thinking of doing, yeah, I'll do it now, what the heck, is painting this bit. Make it a little brighter. Because I want to paint bronze there and there and there and there. Bit of gold highlight here. Yeah, it's not showing a lot, but you know, it's kind of it's something. Does it show up? Yeah, see, on camera it shows up. It's pretty decent. And then I'm going to put dark gray wash on the whole thing and it'll all get covered up. Oh well. But this guy has to be, you know, dark like this. Okay. Everything just got a dark gray wash. And, well, then that's what's going to happen to it. At least that's what I was told should probably happen. We'll see. This one is done, you know, and I play around with some of the plastic putty on the submarine. What I've got left is a gigantic lute-playing goose. Don't ask. I have no clue why. But for some reason, Lexi decided that on the rosin printer, the thing to do was to make a gigantic barred goose. I mean, really huge. Yeah, you'll see that when I pull it out. going to just be painting some of these scales. They're not really feathers. I guess they're more like scales on the shield. This bronze color. And again, it's in the same color tone as the underlying brass, but it's a little, just like the gold is a little lighter. This is just a little darker. Contrasty kind of look on the shield, which again will probably be totally lost after I wash it. Maybe I won't wash everything. It could be a thing too, is I could just I'll do that when I get the wash out. I'll maybe make some decisions about what will get washed and what won't. These metallics are kind of fun to play with because, you know, again, it shows up on camera pretty well that these are darker, you know, and the gold across the top, that shows up okay too. Yeah, this little bit on the bottom here is actually at first it was just one, but it's not. It's very evenly. Yeah, so the shield looks better now with the different contrasting colors on it. Yeah, this is we're gonna do something with the legs. I thought about, you know, just painting in this bit here. Not much of it, but just, you know, so that's not monochrome. The raised areas and they're pretty easy to get to. Yeah, again, you know, on camera it shows up okay. So it's kind of worth doing. Let this dry before I mess around with the wash because yeah, we'll see. Let's see what I want to do with this. Dum 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 dum. Take these off. Let that dry a bit. and do this thing that I'm forgetting to do, which is to clean the rim. The rim of this jar. So I'm going to use this beat up paper towel and replace it in a bit, but get out this little X-Acto knife here. Yeah, this isn't much fun to watch, but it's important to do because the jar doesn't come close to sealing, and then the paint disappears. It's useless then. But there's a lot of paint buildup around the rim of this jar. And what happens, see, is now you take the thing off and the paint oozes down into the bottom there, and then it gets onto the top of the jar. And then I guess I shouldn't say it doesn't seal. It actually seals too well. It sticks. It's like an adhesive, which actually that's what paint is. I've been told paint is a pigmented adhesive. And when you think about it, it makes sense because its primary purpose is to stick to something, the surface you're painting, right? So paint is an adhesive, and so it's not surprising that when it builds up on the rim like this, that it sticks really hard. It's a very good adhesive. It's in these. This is relaxing, scraping paint off. Scraping paint off of jars with Dyson Dungeons. Really built up on there. And it's real gooey. See, I guess when it's inside the rim like that, it doesn't completely dry, and it just stays sticky, and it's very sticky, especially right here. It's right. The jar here. Put this, scraping off paint, getting little paint spatters all over the place. Threatening to jam my finger with a sharp X-Acto knife. This is pretty exciting stuff here. Danger involved in doing this. Well, I don't know if that's going to help or not. I mean, it won't be any worse in terms of the cap of the jar sticking, but I don't know if it'll be much better. Find out. Goes on more easily, so that's good. Okay. Yeah, the adhesive qualities of this paint are becoming very obvious here. Okay, how are we doing on time here? Quarter after. Let me just get the wash out and start washing this. I'm gonna wash the armor with this though. I'm gonna wash the red and the blue and the bite. Probably the shaft of the hammer. But I might try something else on the rest of it. What I want is, I don't want the blue and the white and the red to be looking just so lifeless. And the wash worked pretty well on the flesh here, so I think that'll be okay. But I'm going to try something else on the armor. The brush with like broader bristles here. And see, it tones it down. So the texturing a little bit better. You know, you can see that this worked pretty well here. Let me get the horns. Not too much on the brush here. Let me get the, I'll do the cape. That came out okay. Good. Made it nice and streaky. Livened it up a lot. Let's see what happens with the horns here. Darker toward the base, maybe. And then I'll put some on the, just on the shaft of the hammer here. Well, that looks better. I mean, yeah, it looks pretty good. What I want to try with the armor though is I'm going to use a brown wash instead of the gray. Got this. We've got a regular brown wash. We've got three kinds of brown. I've got this umber, which is a little bit redder. It might work. We've got this dark brown, which is kind of bland. And then there's another one here that we use, you know, smoky ink. Smoky ink is really nice on browns. You know what I'm going to do? Yeah, I'm actually going to try this. It's something I do. And for this model, it's kind of a waste of time, but I'm just going to try. I'm going to test it. I'm going to make a blotch of brass. Let it dry, and then try the three different kinds of washes on the blotch of brass. See which one looks best. Yeah, I've done this pretty often. Like here, I've got I was just testing 3 kinds of blues, and then just different colors of wash over them to see which ones look best. I don't remember what this was for. Whatever this was, that looks pretty good. That was kind of fun. It's kind of metallic-y almost. And here I wanted to try different colors of red. These were for the missiles. The missiles from the submarine. I wanted to see which color would look best for the missile. I'm going to need a pretty big blob. A big blob of brass. And then let it dry. And then leave a texture on it. Yep, that was a bigger blob than I needed. So, and then try the 3 different washes on it to see which looks best. But I think it would look better with I'll try the black as well. There's a big enough blob there I can try all 4, not black, the dark gray. So these four washes are going to get tested on this brass blob here to see which looks best. What is it, about 11:30? Okay, well that has to dry before I can test. So what I can do, I'm going to take this guy and just put it aside, and this guy, and put it like aside up here probably. Let's put it up here. This is what I'm going to do while I'm waiting for this brass paint to dry. Is I'm going to do the submarine thing that I talked about. Which will take me up until about break, because I can't put the wash on there until that dries. So let me show you what I'm dealing with here. The good thing you can't see my workbench. You know, some people who do this have like studios, and they put their paints away carefully, and they have brush holders and stuff. I've got a piece of cardboard here with a piece of paper on it and a ring camera, and this is a workshop, not a studio. And this is just this is it. Relaxing Painting with Dice and Dungeons is streamed to you with leftover bits of things from the studio that we used for our D&D campaign. So you get low-tech relaxing painting sort of along with a low-tech painter. Okay. Those of you who love to watch Submarine Wednesday, you might recognize this. This actually goes this way. Okay. And on this rests the visible interior, the cutaway interior of the submarine. And this is a stand. Let me take these off. These were on here to hold it together while the cement was setting, okay, as is the rubber band. This folds down and displays the cutaway submarine, which you might see in a little bit. And this plastic is really kind of crappy, just in terms of, you know, if you look at it, the color's not very good, it's not very even, there's scratches on it, all sorts of weird junk. So I'm going to spray paint this whole thing. And then the stand, I'm going to spray paint a slightly different color. But what happens when you cement pieces together like this is that there's ridges and gaps and stuff. So what will eventually happen to this is that the gaps, I'm going to do some gap filling today, which is what I was planning to do a week ago, a little more than a week ago, a week and a half ago, is fill in these gaps here. These are little gaps, and then carefully file and sand them down so that the seams don't show. Like here, there's a seam that shows because the parts don't line up. Yeah, they don't line up perfectly, right? So, yeah. Anyway, the last time I tried this fell apart, so I put a lot more cement on it from the inside, so it's holding now. That's good. And this is the plastic putty of which I speak. So I'm going to just squeeze this into some of the gaps. Okay, it's white. I'm going to put in more than I need because I'll be sanding it down. Make sure that if there's any gaps there, that they're not going to show. For the most part, there aren't any gaps here. It's just that the two sides are uneven, and so there'll be a lot of sanding to make them even. On this side, there is a gap here, which you can't see because you can't get it on camera. There's a little gap here in this seam, and I want to get some of this pushed up into the gap. Messy, but you know, sandpaper fixes a lot of that. Okay, that was not good. You know, these are just fragile plastic pieces, and whenever that kind of thing happens, there is the opportunity for them to snap off, and then it becomes a challenge of cementing and holding and reinforcing. Just kind of pushing this plastic putty down into a seam so that there's gaps in it. And there is down here this pretty big flaw. This little edges of the plastic are kind of broken off there a little bit. Yeah. So on Wednesday, what you'll see is that I'll be using fine-grained sandpaper and sanding all these. I'm not going to... I don't know if this is going to show. I think it might. Okay, right across the top here is definitely a gap there. The hull of the submarine comes down, but it stops here. So this is actually going to show. So I'm going to fill this in. And this will all be sanded down as well. Yeah, I don't know if you can see, there's these little tabs here at the top. Those were mysterious to me. I was saying, why are those tabs there? They just seem to get in the way. But then I actually looked at the hull of the submarine that I'd been working on for like months and said, oh yeah, there's little slots. There actually are little slots. And yeah, they fit on there. Okay, so there's that. The inside of this, I tried to spray paint the inside of this earlier. You can see it's a slightly, you can see the color difference, but the propellant in the can of paint's failed. And now I've just got a rough surface, so when I sand things down, I'm gonna get some steel wool and smooth that off, so that's a smooth surface for the painting that will be done when painting happens. So, this is side. This bit here is a little more complicated. This is the tail of the submarine, the aft part of it, the very, very back. This is set up so these work. Okay. You go up and down. And this rotates, that's where the propeller goes. And this was made up of a lot of pieces, but the biggest are these two halves. And just like with the other one, it fell apart. So I ended up putting a good deal of cement on from the inside there. But again, what happens is that the seams become obvious. Okay, so I need to doing the same thing with those, just putting a little bit of filler in to make sure that there's no gap there, and then I'll be filing and sanding these down. Sanding them so that the seams don't show. And with a thing like this, usually what the seam is not so much that there's a gap there, is that the two halves don't match. So there's this tiny fraction of a millimeter of a ridge, actually. Because this seam goes all the way back to here. There's a ridge there where the two parts don't exactly match with each other. That needs to be sanded down. At least this is holding together. See on this side that there's actually a pretty decent sized gap. I don't know if this is the top or the bottom. But if it's the top, those definitely need to be filled in. If it's the bottom, it won't show that much, but build this up a little bit. Because what I found sometimes is that, it gets into the gap, but doesn't completely fill it, and so I end up with a little, you can still see the seam. But then after I just apply a little bit to the seams on this one, just to make sure that there aren't any gaps, because sometimes there are. When I did the missile tubes, what I discovered was that even with filling them in, the gaps don't show until it's painted, and then then it's multi-layer kind of thing. Okay. On the very tail end of this shaft here, the propeller goes on there and it actually rotates, just like these move. The propeller rotates. I have to make sure that the propeller fits on there before I attach this to the submarine. But after I sand everything down, I might have to make this shaft just a little smaller, for example, to make sure the propeller fits right up against the back here. Now the last bit, this is the submarine. I'm going to move it along here. Look. Get a view of it moving along. You see the detail inside. This is what has taken forever to build. There's all the crew detail there, and there's where the missiles go. And then there's the reactor and the heat exchanger and all the machine rooms and stuff. Where that tail goes, the thing that I was just working on. So there's a couple of bits here that got attached later. And okay, so I'm going to start with the easy one. The one in front. I'm going to take the tape off, and you can see this gap. Okay, that's the kind of gap that needs to be filled. This was just holding it on, but nope. See that? It didn't hold. It didn't hold. So all the cementing I did some time ago, for some reason was just a failure. I don't know what happened. It's so weird. But I have to be careful here because I don't want to mess up all the detail on the inside of the submarine by taking this apart. I think what's going to happen up here is that particular section of the hull is anyway. Yeah, I'm trying to get the tape off here, and I'm going to just see just what my situation is, right? So I know there's gaps here. These gaps would have to be filled in, but this isn't holding, you know? Look at that. I mean, it just didn't hold at all. Even though there was a lot of cement on there. So, yeah. I'm going to have to do some work on that. And you can see the tape here. The tape here, along here. That's holding this on. I bet that's going to come off too. But let's deal with one thing at a time. Right? I did not set this up very well for this. Didn't anticipate quite as much a travail as I'm getting. Okay. Yeah. Busted off the holes. Those took forever. Okay, I have to be careful where my fingers go. If I touch the inside of this, I could break off parts that I don't want to break off. I don't want to break off any parts. Okay. So, there. There's a really big surface area of to be cemented on here. You know, I mean, there's a lot of. So you can see the nose. Completely. See, this is the part I'm sure is going to come off. In fact, I'm kind of hoping it does because these things don't line up very well. Either on the front or the back. So, but I need to worry about this first. Working with little minis is a little easier because they take up a whole lot less space. Using just liquid cement. And yeah, I'm just going to apply a generous amount of liquid cement to the areas that are supposed to be cemented. And then I'm going to do the same on the inside of this. So I don't spill it, that would be a disaster. Attach it again. Yeah, I'm having a time with this. Okay, I'm going to get some tape and retape that because it needs to hold tight. It's knocked off an entire reactor. That was not good. Not good. That was not a good thing. That happened. That was a bad thing that happened. Really bad thing that happened is that this pipe doesn't line up. It needs to go. Say shit on this show. I definitely am going to. Yep. I am knocking pieces out of the submarine. It took a while to get on. Okay, that's going to take a while to fix. This will give me something to do on Submarine Wednesday, is reinstalling that. I didn't cement these pieces in place because they're usually held by friction really pretty well. This particular piece is a pain to get in though, because there's a little hole, a tiny little hole. You can't see this. There's a little hole in the bulkhead where this pipe goes in, and it has to sit on there and on there. So I think I can install it and then put this in later. Okay, those pieces gone later. I need to fix this nose though. Here. You're watching a submarine struggle. This is partly why getting a submarine put together was with such an adventure is stuff like that. Anyway, I want the nose of this submarine be kind of tight. Okay. Got mess, all this mess up here. All that's going to get filed down and sanded and filled in. So I'm not too worried about that. Okay. Well, you got to see me break a chunk of the submarine. That was exciting. You get to see all this struggle going on off camera. Okay, these pieces came out. And those are fairly easy to replace, I hope. But what I want to find out here, I'm not sure what's going to happen under here. I'm not sure if this piece stayed on or not, because everything else has come off that I've cemented before. And this is one piece I was actually kind of hoping would come off, but it didn't. At least not so far. No, it's staying on pretty well. The problem here is that these sections didn't match up, and I had to do a lot of manipulating. This is the color it's going to end up being, by the way. This is the color the whole hull will be. But this section of the deck doesn't quite line up with the rest. But since it's staying on, know where the hatch piece went. Hopefully, I carefully put it aside. This is where the missiles shoot out, but there's big gaps here, so I'm going to be doing a lot of sanding and filing here. I'm going to run this putty, this plastic putty. I'm going to run it up quite a ways, actually, because I need to feather this in. I actually need to feather on both the fore and the aft. This might take several applications, we'll see, to get these parts of the hull to match each other. This is going to be a little bit tricky sanding this. In fact, I'm going to wipe some of that off because I don't want to lose the detail. You can see the gap here, how close it is to the detail of the hatches or the tops of the missile tubes. And back here, there is the feathering into the hull is even more pronounced than it is on the front. So I'm building up kind of a wedge here, so that when this cures, I'll be able to file it down and sand it down. It'll be a nice smooth edge. It'll look great once it's painted. So the reason I was kind of hoping this one would fall off was so that I could manipulate it a little bit more, so that the sections of the hull matched up better. But the one part I wanted to fall off didn't fall off, and everything else did. Okay. Now what I need to do here is, of course, what I didn't do, what I did do. What I didn't need to do is I didn't need to stick my thumb. Wow, I am really making a mess of this. Huh. Fortunately. Yeah, I was screaming because I just knocked. Look at what I did. When I was unscrewing the cap, I unscrewed the entire thing and not just the applicator tip. Sometimes things just go not very well, you know? I need to put this on the outside because I'm feathering this down as well. This is a little bit higher than the rest of the hull. But it needs to be on the outside. And then I need to very carefully wipe off this plastic putty. Away from the missile hatches. So I'm not sure. When I'm done with this, when I'm sanding this down, I'm almost certain to still have spots that are going to be uneven. So I'll have to make more than one application before I eventually end up painting this entire hull. But I'll see how that goes. What I do know though, is I don't want the plastic putty. I don't want the plastic putty on missile hatches. Wow, you know, that is just not going well. Bit wet. Yeah, that works better. I'm going to very carefully clean this. And then probably spend a lot of time trying to get this particular section of the hull blended into the rest of the hull. But I can see that this is going to be a significant challenge, getting that little seam closed up. Destroying the detail elsewhere on the model. Up here I don't mind. That's just fine, but let me just go. These are, cotton swab things so that. But they're working. I'm getting it clean. I was a little concerned about that, but it's working pretty well. Even back here where it's really a mess. Trying to destroy this entire thing, it looks like. Yeah, that one got way too wet. Messing up my submarine. Making a mess where there wasn't one. Yay. Yeah, I've gone silent here because I am... Oh no, I just made such a mess of things. In a way, in a place in a way that I really shouldn't have, but I did. Fortunately, it was a reversible error. Problem. I'd had these little cotton swab things down here for like half a decade. I mean, I'm serious. Never used them, but now, not only did I need them, but they were right there where I needed them. That was a happy accident. Okay, so what I'm seeing is that this gap up here and here, where I need to do a lot of feathering, that it's, especially back here, it's just... That will cure, you know, in the next few days. Let's see how it turns out on Wednesday. If it's still gooey and not hard, I won't be able to get very far. But there, the seam here is going to take, I don't know, that's going to be, let's see how that turns out too. Anyway, yeah, the nose fell off. So that should have been a really easy thing to fill in, and I couldn't fill it in. This didn't fall off, and I was hoping it would. This fell apart, and I was hoping it wouldn't. The bit needs to be there. Okay. Just put this all back together. Hopefully it won't come apart again. Okay, you can see I definitely need a break. I have made a major mess of things here. I spent a good deal of time cleaning up a significant mess, and have made more messes, but you get to see the inside of the submarine. You got to see part of it fall out. You got to see me stick my fingers frequently into the plastic putty I've been using, trying to fill in some gaps. I am definitely putting this aside and not touching it again until I have to. Well, there was a sample of what Submarine Wednesdays have sometimes been. Actually, that was a good deal worse than most of them. Sometimes they worked out actually pretty well, but that wasn't. Yeah, I have a mess of stuff here. I come back from break. Yeah, if I'm brave enough, I will come back from break. And after I've successfully washed my hands, I'm hoping, and cleaned up the mess I've made. That was, jeez, good grief. I almost lost this part. I almost just threw it away. Just by accident, I happened to see the hatch from the top of the deck that it was like, where did that part go? I don't know. Just by accident. Thank you. I found it. Otherwise, I would have had to have stolen it from another set. And I would have been very disturbed. Anyway, that was a lucky accident. It was the first good thing that happened in the last half hour. I'm going to throw this away. I'm going to clean up my hands because I've made a huge mess of them. I'm going to try to reorient the camera when I get back. When I get back, I am going to test these 4 washes since it really doesn't matter at all anyway. How the armor of this thing ends up looking. I'm spending way too much time on it, trying out 4 different washes on the color of the armor, which will be dry. It's not quite dry yet when I get back from break. And then come back to this guy that is almost done except for washing the armor with one of those 4 colors of wash, whichever looks better on here. And then I will be done with this. Well, no, I have to paint the base. I'm going to paint the base, I don't know, dark gray. Yeah, why not? And put black wash on the base. And then I will start, I guess I'm going to start on the giant goose unless there's something else. I'll show you the goose after break. No sense doing it now. I'll lay this guy down so you can see it. Break the tail off, why not? Okay, well, that foray into the submarine was going okay until the nose fell off. Great, that was terrific. The whole bow fell off, even though there was a lot of cement on it. The part that should have fallen off because I wanted to do a little more filing and sanding so it fit better didn't fall off, and I didn't want to just snap it off. That could have been a problem. So then I started putting the filler in because I need to do some feathering, a good deal of feathering of the hull on the fore and the aft. But I managed to get it all over the top onto the detail, and I had to wash it off with Q-tips or cotton swabs, to be more generic. And then a piece fell out, and that was typical relaxing painting on Dice and Dungeons. And after break, we might see some more. You never know what'll happen. I'll be back in about a half an hour. Well, okay, break's over. It took longer than I thought. Sorry about that. Let's see. Plastic putty aside. Let's see how things go on Wednesday. Don't touch the submarine. That's a thing, because it can only go bad. So what I'm going to do here, since I'm wasting time on details that are totally irrelevant to this model, okay, is what I don't want to do is make the armor just kind of like go black. So I'm trying 4 different kinds of wash on this sample here, because why not, right? To see if any of them look good, or if at least one of them doesn't look awful. Yeah, let's try these. I'm going to put them on in this order. And since I'm old, I'm going to line up the bottles in the order in which I put it on the sample here, in the same order. I'm just saying things over and over again. That's not good. Yeah, just that. This is smoky ink. This is we use this a lot on our dungeon tiles. Actually, I should show those to you. It looks really good on the wood. It's got a fair amount of red in it. That doesn't, if it's applied lightly, it doesn't look too bad. This is umber, which is a little less red. I'm just putting these drops right on the cardboard stuff here. Why not? Wow. Somehow or other, that just got all over my fingers. It's just going to be that kind of day, isn't it? I have no idea how that happened. I don't even know which one it was. Apparently it poured it out when I opened it up. You know, to spend some time cleaning my fingers later. Lovely. You can see it's much less red. It's not bad though. I mean, that would give it some texture without covering it. It's brown wash. You can see the pigment has settled pretty significantly on the bottom there. Just going to take it off the top of the bottle. There's a lot of it there. Well, that's not bad. It's better than the umber. Yeah, and I'm thinking, I'm not even going to bother with the black at this point, or the dark gray. I'm going to be using the dark brown wash on the armor. And what I want it to do is tone it down a little bit, just so it's not so bright, you know, but at the same time, you know, bring out a little bit of the texture, but not make it look all dark, and you know, you don't want it to look too dark. We'll see how it works. Let's try to get the pigment all mixed up in it, because the pigment settles. Yeah, It's mixing pretty well. Well, hopefully this will work, and then I can paint the base and be done with this guy, and then get to work on the giant goose. What I won't be doing, will definitely not be doing, is touching the submarine again. That was just nothing. Wow. One of these just squirted all over everything. At least my hands. Okay, take these off so I can see close up a little bit. I'm going to start on here. My hammerhead. Let's see if it'll give me the desired result here, which is to make it look darker, bring out a little bit of the texture, but not make it look crappy. Yeah, I think that'll work. Even if it doesn't work, I'm going to say it worked, because I'm not feeling like repainting all of these. Yeah, I mean, this will do. And when I'm done swapping this around, then wish I had stuff to talk about today other than, oh my God, that awful art. Oh, I stuck my finger in that. Oh no. Piece of it broke off. That was quite an adventure with the submarine, just trying to get the plastic putty in the grooves. It was like everything went wrong. It was pretty amazing. Fortunately, I don't think anything permanently was damaged. Okay. I got the plastic putty out of the detail of the hatches, the missile hatches on the top. That's going to just, what I should have done, and I thought about this, of course, when I was on break, is instead of putting, like I did, a big blob of a plastic putty there and then hope to sand it down to feather it into the hull, basically. What I should have done was said, okay, well, I'm not in a rush here. The submarine's been underway for about 1 million years. Why don't I just put a thin layer in and sand that down and put another thin layer across the top, like you do with drywall. When you're mudding drywall or putting, anyway, what I should have done was just put a thin layer on and sanded it, and put a thin layer on and sanded it, and taken some time to get it done instead of just putting a big blob on, because I don't know if that blob is actually going to set up ever. It's really thick. So I'll find out on Wednesday when I start doing some sanding. I'll save that bit for the end, because that could go bad. What I do know is that I had to re-glue the bow, so that has a gap in it that needs to be sanded down, filled in. So it's just the submarine bit. You'll just see little bits of it now and then because it's just like I have to put the plastic putty around the bow now, and I can't do that until the cement sets up. Okay, I promised that I wouldn't touch the submarine again, but I think I lied. What I'm going to do is, I don't know. I'm prevaricating. What I thought I might do is, at the end of the stream, put the plastic putty around the bow that I just cemented on, because it will have been sitting there for over an hour. But which means that it should be holding pretty well. And then I'll be able to sand that down on Wednesday. And so on Wednesday, I'll be doing a lot of sanding. Most of it will be okay because there's a thin layer. The thing around the hatch at the top where the missiles come out might not be okay. That one might not be okay in any way, shape, or form. We'll find out. After I do the stern, where the dive planes are, that has to be cemented onto the submarine, and then that actually needs to set up and then be puttied and sanded before I can paint the whole thing. But so there's a couple of steps to go yet. I want to not get too impatient about it, but what I can do, I'll just work on it on Wednesday, and if it takes a couple more weeks before it's done, that's okay. It'll just be little bits and pieces that will appear here and there. Well, I'm mainly going to be working on the next bit, which is the Apollo stack. Okay, so I think that wash actually looks pretty good on the armor. Let me show it to you compared to the other one. See how this one turned out so dark? Okay, it kind of lost some of the detail, and I think it looks, it looks a little shiny, and I think that's okay. I might put a little bit more on. I might put a little bit more on a couple of spots, like the breastplate here. That look a little darker. The hammer actually I think turned out pretty well. The shield, I'm going to put a little bit more on the shield. So I'm going to declare this a success. Yep, successful. And now I'm just going to paint the base. I'm going to paint it I'm going to make it pretty dark. I'm going to use dark gray and then put a little bit of black wash on it, or the dark gray wash, just to give it a little unevenness, a little bit of unevenness. It won't show very much. The dark gray won't show very much, but it'll just make it a little less than totally flat. This paint's almost gone. Paint brush that has a fine enough point to get around the boots without getting all over the boots. But I also want enough bristles on the brush so I don't have to, like, paint this a tiny dot at a time. So then I'm going to let this, this is going to dry a little bit. It'll dry really fast. And then I'm going to put the dark gray wash over it. Like I said, just to give it a little bit of non-uniformity. Then it's time to work on the goose, I guess. I mean, what else? There isn't anything else other than the stuff I'm going to be working on Wednesday. When I do kind of the Apollo reveal, I'd opened the box before, just to see what was in there. So that was kind of a reveal, but it wasn't really. I mean, it was just enough to go, oh no, the bag's ripped open, parts are flopping around in the box. I hope it's okay. And I just left it at that. I hope it's okay. So that's how we left Apollo. Which is kind of that, how this goes. Painting, oh, I hope that's okay. I hope that'll be all right. But, where would relaxing painting be without, some oopses? But during break, I was talking with Alexis, who is our dungeon mistress, but also the person who is responsible for all of, the studio and rigging up this leftover stuff here, ring camera. And then there's a camera there that I'm pointing at that's pointing at me because for some reason, she thought that should happen rather than just having a disembodied voice is to have a whatever, a picture of somebody who's talking. At any rate, what am I muttering about? Well, what I'm muttering about is during break, I was talking with her about maybe, since there's going to be some spray painting, either through, some model paint spray cans or airbrushing, of maybe setting up. There's an airbrush box over there with a nice light on it and things that we've been using to do the priming for our dungeon tiles. Talked about maybe setting a camera up there so that it could show me airbrushing the Apollo thing. And it turned out to really be kind of a significant effort to make that work. In order to get a camera in there with a wide enough angle lens to show what was going on. But the other thing about it is that I haven't used an airbrush. Oh my. Okay. That's not good. There's another part of the submarine that fell off. A part that was really, really a significant pain to get on. And I didn't know it fell off, but now I'm looking down here. See that there? That's a little ladder. And that little ladder, when I was messing around with the submarine and parts of the reactor fell off, significant parts of the reactor fell off. I was looking at it, and this one hadn't fallen off, and I didn't know it fell off until I looked over here and saw it laying there. So that's another thing I get to do on Wednesday, is attempt to put that back And that was a real pain to get on. It has really tiny contact points at the top of the ladder that need to be attached to the bottom of an escape hatch. Oh well, I thought I was nearly done with it, but nope, not so much. Okay, I'm just going to grab this brush here. I want to open this with a paper towel because sometimes I've been finding that these spatter, like this brown one did. I'm going to try to just get enough of it off the top of the bottle here without wasting it by throwing it in there. I'm going to just be blotching this on. I want it to look uneven. You know, almost like it's stone, kind of. Intentionally just blob it. I don't know how blobby that will be, but it will be, you know, it'll be pretty dark because it is. All right, I have got what, like an hour? Yeah, I guess I got about an hour. One thing I'm going to do, though, I'm going to be off screen for just a minute because this little ladder that fell off the submarine when I was trying to get the plastic putty on it, and everything was going really badly. I wanted to not get lost. I did get most of the plastic putty, but not all of it off of my hands. But whichever one of the washes decided to explode onto my hands, that's going to take a while to get off. I'm going to put glasses on here for a second so I can kind of see. There's the sort of demon thing, whatever it is. Okay, and I think I like the way the armor turned out with the brown wash on it as opposed to the black. So this is the other one, and it looks, you know, it just looks really quite different in terms of whatever, but, you know, I put some detail into the armor. You can see now with the wash on it, it shows up even better, like the gilt highlights on the hammer, you know, and the different shading on the shield. I didn't want it to just disappear like it would with a black wash, so the brown, if anything, kind of emphasized it. Even the kind of the edging, like the gold edging on the breastplate there. So I'm okay with how this turned out. You know, I like the way the back of the cape turned out. So I'm going to say this is a success. It's adequate. I have achieved adequacy, which is always what I'm aiming for on relaxing painting with Dice and Dungeons. Is it, you know, that'll do. I'll put that aside. So this is the goose. The goose has got some issues. You can see here that at the bottom of the wings and stuff, there's just some strings, some little support strings or whatever that showed up there from the rosin printing, and those will look bad when it's painted. And there's a few other places, like back here, there's a string. I'm going to have to put my head magnifiers on, and I'm going to use like a file on sandpaper and maybe an X-Acto knife. I have to be careful with the knife because this rosin is kind of brittle, and it's really easy to snap off like one of the wing tips. when I'm cleaning this up. But I do need to clean it up, so I'm going to get some things here. Looking for some sandpaper. Sandpaper will work pretty well. It'll be tedious. A little X-Acto knife and a needle file. And I'm going to be spending a little bit of time here cleaning up this model. Hopefully. We'll see. Hopefully not breaking it. About a third of the time. It is that often. About a third of the time when I'm attempting to do this kind of cleaning up stuff, I do in fact break it. I have glued on with one form of adhesive or another many wingtips and arrow points and talons and sword blades. Let's just say many times I have had the opportunity. It sounded like a piece fell off. There have been many times when I've had the opportunity to replace parts, or in the instance of sword blades, actually fabricate replacements, because when I broke them off and they go flying across the workbench and onto the floor, they disappear. In the land of where is the other sock, because everybody's got those, right? And then you put two socks into a dryer and one comes out. Sometimes it's the washing machine, but usually it's the dryer. I do believe that there is, in the land of missing socks, that there's also a whole lot of tiny little plastic bits, mainly sword blades and feather tips, from minifigs that have been lost in the process of cleaning up like this. This would go a lot faster if I weren't wearing these head magnifiers, but what the head magnifiers do is they let me see the flaws in greater detail, which means that it takes longer to fix them, because there's more fixing involved. Yeah, I thought I had gotten that one, and then, there's also the rotated. And when you rotate it, and you see the bits that you thought you had, that you didn't. I'm also sanding off some of the primer, but not so much that should make a big difference. The other thing about doing this, other than wasting up a whole lot of time that I could be using painting, is that I'm working on details that will be invisible later on, because these are not display models, and so people aren't going to be looking at them close up. There'll be no reason to do that. It won't be under lights on a display shelf or anything. If they show up at all, it'll be on camera at a distance. So, like, none of this would probably be visible. So it's like a double waste of time, right? But that's what relaxing painting on Dice and Dungeons is all about. The thing it's about, or as they say, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, no, it wasn't the movie, it was the TV show. Amongst our weaponry, after going, our chief weapon, naming 2 and then 3, and then amongst the weaponry, is amongst the features of relaxing painting with Dice and Dungeons is wasting time on things that really don't matter in terms of the things being worked on. The other feature is the oops feature. And those of you who saw it before break, while I was doing a little bit of prep work on the submarine, there was a good deal of oopsing going on there. And then there's little oopses like opening the bottle of wash and having it explode on your hand. So who is saying something in chat? I can't see it because my large print chat screen isn't working. Are you done yet? You mean with the stream today or with the submarine? No, the submarine's going to wander on yet for probably another part of the month, because what I'm working on, what's going on with the submarine is applying plastic filler in the seams, and that has to dry, and then it has to be sanded. And so it just takes days. And I had hoped to get all the plastic filler in before I went off on the family trip last week. But it didn't work because the parts that were going to be filled in on fell off and had to be re-cemented. And the same thing happened today with the part that I didn't want to have fall off, and did not happen with the part that I was hoping would fall off. But those things are going to have to be sanded down. The interior of the submarine is complete, though. So I'm going to keep showing that off because it did turn out to look pretty good. And you get to watch me put some parts back on because I broke them off today. Did a great job. I broke them off today in the process of doing something irrelevant. By putting the plastic putty on. It's like I turned it over and it fell off. Nice. I got most of it back on. I got the reactor room back together. The entire reactor room fell out of the submarine. That needed to be replaced. But a little ladder, which is a real pain in the butt to get, that fell off. On Wednesday, I'll replace that. But I'm going to be doing a lot, just seam sanding on Wednesday, and the base and the flip down hull, the outside hull, those will be ready to paint. So after Wednesday, I'll be able to paint those, and that'll be done. But I still got these bits that are associated with the main hull has to be done in phases. So, it's like something takes 5 minutes to do, takes 10 minutes to fix it after I did it, and then takes another 5 minutes to redo, because, it would have just been 5 minutes, but it took 20 minutes because it went badly the first time. Those things take a tiny little bit of time, but it takes like 2 days in between each of those 5 minutes of things. Anyway, that's where the submarine is. Anyway, you'll see it on Wednesday. It's almost done, and I can show you the parts that aren't done and just give you a prognosis. Most of it, a lot of it's actually going to be done off screen because it involves spray painting, and I don't have any way to do that and show it to you at the same time. And it would take, as I was discussing with Alexis over break, it would take a huge amount of work to be able to stream anything from the spray booth thing that we've got. The other thing is that when using an airbrush, I'm supposed to use a respirator. And so that would be kind of weird. I know people do it when they've got, serious modeling shows, unlike this, which is not a serious show. This is just for better or worse entertainment. Is that supposed to be part of? Yes, that's this. I almost broke that off. That's the strap for the bag. Oh, what these bits are here. These bits don't look like they belong. It looks like it was part of the strap of the bag, but it's not attached to the bag. It's attached to its leg there. So yeah, after this comes off the rosin printer, sometimes there's just, just bits, little strings and things that, especially in the gaps between the wings, those just need to be cleaned out. And then I do it mostly without breaking things. Okay, so you can see here that when you combine it all, there's a fair amount of little plastic bits that are now on the floor. Yeah. I should have just swept them into my hand and threw them away, but I didn't. Okay, so as I'm looking at this is actually a gigantic goose. This guy here, a peasant, the torch holding peasant, is actually a large figure, a little bit taller than, about the same size as most of our other figures. So you can see that this is like a dire goose. Okay, if it were a regular size goose, it would be the size of one of these legs. But this is a gigantic lute-playing goose. Let's see what who is saying. Look up in my glasses here. Oh, with a hammer figure. Oh, well. Yeah, you want to see them? You weren't here when I showed it to you. So this was the prototype. This is the one that was done on the PLA printer ages ago, and this is the better one that was done on the rosin printer. So see? And then I used a brown wash instead of the black wash on the armor, so that the different, like the gold highlights on the hammer show up, and the different feather effects, scaling effects on the shield. And I think it came out okay. What's this? Okay, so I'm talking about cleaning things up. There's a chunk on this shield here. After all this time, I didn't even see it. Right? There's this little bit here. There. It looks like it's stuck on there later. Anyway, yeah, so this guy's done. We got the base painted. And I think it came out okay. I think it'll look good on camera if we ever encounter it. Yeah. Turn this off for a bit. Stop for the place. You'll get to see this quite a lot on Wednesday. This is extremely fine emery cloth that I use for sanding the submarine seams. Maybe I'll use some of this grit initially, just for shaping, and then polishing with that so that the scratch marks don't show. I'll be using those again in a bit. So this goose. Yeah, good grief. How could I miss that? Sorry. It's just I rotated it, and I thought I had cleaned up the wings, but just as I turned it in this direction, and you can't see it from the other direction, there's a big string here. Cleared that out. I sanded it with sanding on it. Yeah, that actually would have been kind of ugly if I'd let it go in terms of the detail on the feathers. So yeah, so this is Giant Goose. So one thing, just in making reference to our Dungeons and Dragons campaign, is one of our characters is a tabaxi bard, which is, a cat-like figure. And it was a normal-sized figure, right? On this goose, it would come up to about its hips. But for some reason, having to do with our DM, I don't know, who claims that she's just a really easy on the player's DM. The tabaxi bard got cursed and turned into a badger. I'd actually painted the badger figure. It's a badger playing a saxophone. And I thought, okay, that's cute, and badgers aren't that hard to paint. So it wasn't a real challenge. The saxophone was kind of fun. I got to play with a little, making the inside of the horn a little darker, and I highlighted the valves with some brighter gold paint. Anyway, it turns out that after very carefully not breaking off any pieces of the feathers, that right at the very end, as I was not really paying attention to what I was doing, I broke off a feather. So I'm just going to stick it on with some contact cement, because, yeah, it sets up quickly. I can maybe get to do some painting later. I don't know. Relaxing painting is just an opportunity for things like this to happen. So what I was saying before I just stopped paying attention, apparently, and became careless right at the end when I shouldn't have been, and I needed that oops button. It's another thing I've talked about before, kind of a recurring theme. Anyway, our tabaxi bard got turned into a badger, and the badger's a small character, small size thing. Anyway, I'm speculating now, and I don't think this is true. I don't think this is going to happen, but can't believe I didn't lose it. I grab onto this feather with tweezers. It's the only way I can get it. Good God. Sometimes tweezers really aren't that good at holding things. Yes, the nice thing about contact cement is if it makes contact, which in this case was not easy to do, it actually holds. It'll hold on. it sticks to itself, so it grips. And that's gripping enough. Oh, such a day. So the thing I was working on, which was the hammer guy, actually turned out to be pretty good. You know, I did the touch-up, I did the shading, I did, you know, the washing with the different colors, and it came out all right. And then I worked on the submarine, and that was going okay until I got to the parts that were really kind of important, like, you know, the hull of the submarine itself. What is going on here? Okay, that's just one of its obviously realistic goose hands. Okay. So yeah, I'm going on and on. I'm talking about Nine's Artabaxi Bard turning into a badger, and so when I saw this, and it's a goose, why not, right? Why not a goose? But it's playing a lute. And so I said, oh no, don't tell me. That can't be true. You're not going to let that happen. You're not going to, seriously, you're going to turn Nine's, the Tabaxi Bard that's now a badger, you're going to turn it into a dire goose bard? Really? So it would go from a badger, which is like a creature that goes up to about its knees here, into this thing that towers over twice the height of our Furbog fighter. So that would be, I don't know, that would just be something, wouldn't it? To have our bard turn into a giant goose. But why else would I have a model of a goose playing a lute? You can't imagine. Speaking of the lute, there's this weird, put these back on again, there's this weird deformation. There's a weird deformation at the top of the lute, and I can't tell if that's like part of the embellishment of the lute or just, I think it's like a flaw. I'm going to sand it just a little bit and see what happens. See if I can fix it. So this is not only a lute playing goose, but apparently is singing as well. Oh my, yeah, that's not good. That has to be fixed. I don't know if you can see it, but there's the upper and the lower bill, and then the tongue comes out. But there's these strings here between the tongue and the upper bill that really, it's not good. And the bad part about it is that getting that off without breaking the tongue off, and that would be a problem. This is a challenge. I'm taking the challenge and attacking it with this little bit of sandpaper. I know that if I use the X-Acto knife, it will end in tears. This, it worked. I don't know if you can see that. It should have a before and after, right? But now it's clean, and the tongue, the singing goose is, there it is, singing away. And feels like I just touched something and broke it. So this is going to be a little more of a challenge than it needs to be. It doesn't need to be a challenge at all, but it's going to be, because it has no stand. Keep keep looking at it, there's another that is not a natural part of its foot. It's like it's got a giant bunion on its right foot there. And maybe it does. I mean, this might be a goose with a giant bunion on its right foot, but I don't think that was the intent. Anyway, what I'm afraid of is that the DM is going to just turn our cursed badger bard into a giant dire goose. And what would be even worse is that the player who plays this might decide to sound like a goose. That would be really annoying. Sure, even though the microphones are set to mask a lot of extraneous noise, they do a good job of that. Well, he wouldn't shut up the badger. Anyway, we have this giant goose thing. And there isn't any stand. It could put its feet in the sticky tack, but the toes are like 80% certain to break off. I don't know what I'm going to end up doing. I'm probably going to end up like holding it on like a foot, probably the tail, because the feet will break. It's probably like I'll end up holding it on the tail and then painting the tail after everything else is done. It's just, you know, it's just looking to be that kind of thing. Is there another flaw in the model? It's good enough. Wearing plate armor? Seriously? So it's not only a goose with hands and a lute, where I'm going to have to try to paint the strings and everything on it and make it look like a lute, but it's wearing plate armor. They painted. There's no place to hold it. But what I did do, I used up all my time yet? Almost. What I did do is I printed out a picture of a goose. So, yeah. The part of the goose, the bill is kind of a glossy black. The neck is kind of a grayish black. I'm going to use NATO black for that. And then there's that distinctive white bit here. So what I'm going to do today... Oh yeah, and then there's this base color. I think ivory would look okay there. It's a little bit yellow. And then it's just like dry brushed brown. The legs are black. Just like the bill. And the tail is dark. So I still have some time left and I haven't done any painting, and I've messed around with this for like 40 minutes, which is a great waste of time. Yeah, so NATO black, I'm going to use that because it's a little bit lighter than just black, and I need a glossy black, and one of the 3 blacks that I have is kind of glossy, and I can never remember if it's the game black or the model. The game black. That should be easy to find them because they're all laying out here. That's the model black. That's the one I don't want. Okay. Tongue, I can't see the tongue. I don't know. I'll paint that later. Okay, what I'm going to do is, why not, I'm going to paint the head and the bill and the feet. And the part of the head I'm going to paint is not going to include this white slash, because that'll be painted on later. I can paint the neck and the bill and the feet, and that'll require 2 colors, both of which I have here. I'll paint the neck first. I'm going to keep these on because, as I keep finding, if I base coat without them on, it just ends up looking terrible. And after I'm done with this, depending on the time, I think I got a half hour. I think I'm going to paint the plate armor just so that I know where it is and I don't forget about it. Loose plate armor, I'm going to paint it like gunmetal, kind of a dark color, I think. I don't want it to be all shiny bright. I'm trying to do some things here that if they mess up, which can happen at any time during the stream, but is most likely to happen after break. This is really annoying, not having any place to grab it. Really like this to be slightly more of a brown black than a slightly doing a special custom mix of paint colors, which if I were like doing a oil painting or something, I would probably try to do, but for this, where there has to be touch-up maybe weeks later, I don't want to do any custom color mixing ever, because it would just, I wouldn't be able to do it. Okay. So instead of doing touching up, what I'd end up doing is having to repaint an entire section with the remixed color. To touch up in the other direction, probably with other custom color. And who knows how many iterations it would have to go through before. Plate armor that for some reason the goose is wearing. This goose just makes no sense. I mean, it's a bard. That makes no sense, because geese do not have hands like this does. Looks like a, I don't know, it's some sort of weird aberration. Where it's got wings and hands, both. So you see that on some dragons, right? Where they've got 6 appendages instead of 4. But it's a bard that has plate armor. Sure. I'm not sure about this model at all. But no, you know, since it's a goose, I'll be painting it as goosey as I can. Side of the mouth and the tongue. I need to paint that before I paint the bill. What does the inside of a goose's mouth look like? It's probably some sort of reddish, pinkish color. I use pink on the inside of the mouth. Yeah, right on. Okay. I'm going to start with this, and then maybe darken it a little bit with like a. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to try. What if I got to lose, right? So this will be a little bit of an experiment. So I'm going to paint the inside of the mouth pink and then wash it with smoky ink, which is kind of a brownish red. If you'd seen it before, if you were watching earlier, you'd have seen that as one of the colors that I tested on the armor. The outside of the bill gets painted glossy black. Can't do this without... Yeah, there's a flaw there that makes the mouth look really weird. Not so bad once I get the paint there. Base coat. It's sort of a brownish tannish kind of color. And the whites that I've got, I don't want to use a white. Ivory might work. I've used that a lot as a white base coat. I don't know what else I might have. Yeah, I've got these others, like this dark sand, but that's way too dark, as is the buff. The ivory is a little bit too yellow, but it might look okay when I dry brush the brown on it. But the other options I've got are like these sort of flesh tone colors like that, and that's just way too dark and yellow. So I think it's just going to be ivory. There's going to be a lot of ivory base coat on the wings. Didn't get the black on them. I'm going to touch those up now while I'm looking at it, and while I'm waiting for the pink to dry. This base coat has to be really pretty solid. There's no wash that will really go over it. Because we're just, constantly handling this model, because there's no way to get this on a stand without breaking it. On this side is fine. On this side I got pink all over the bill. I do not know how I managed to do that. Painting it from this side. It all has to do with the angle of the brush and my ineptitude. So the experiment here is the inside of the mouth, which is now very pink, which is okay, but I'm going to use this stuff. No, not this stuff, this one. Using this as a wash on the inside of the mouth. I'm hoping that it tones it down. Makes it look less pink and a little bit more like, I don't want a scarlet red, right? Let's see how this works. I don't know. I have no clue about what's going to happen here. It wasn't as transparent as I wanted it to be. I was hoping is that the wash would be a lot more transparent than that. I don't know. It might look okay once the bill is painted. Find out. I might have to repaint this a couple of times. Never sure. Okay, this is sort of a glossy black. At least the way it turned out on the color charts. I haven't used it in forever, so it needs to be thoroughly mixed. Yeah, the little bulb bearing is breaking loose of the pigment here. Like, if I recall, this doesn't cover that well. I might have to put 2 coats on. But the bill and the feet are glossy. So this has to be glossy. Paint the bill. So this is black against black. Really deep black. Glossy deep black against slightly not black. The inside of the mouth looks better with the bill painted black. Okay. I'm going to paint the talons black. This is going to be the thing about this is that I'm going to be inadvertently grabbing onto them while they're still wet. So that'll be fun. It'll be fun to watch me get black paint all over my hands. Because I almost certainly will. Yeah, that's the bunion. I took most of the bunion off, but there's still some left there. Like I need to keep these head magnifiers on almost all the time. Even doing something like this that you would think I could do, and I probably could without my glasses on or anything, but then I come back with the head magnifier and find spots that I missed and just... Anyway, they feel weird, they look weird. They do help me see what I'm doing. I might take them off when I paint almost this entire thing except for the tail, because that'll have to be painted separately, because that's probably where I'm going to end up holding it. I'm wondering as I'm doing this if I put an alligator clip on something that's not fragile, like not the toes, right? Because those are fragile and could break off. But if I clip the tail and stuck the alligator clip in the sticky tack, whether that would work, or whether I should just not bother and just try to remember to grab the tail instead of some other part of the model. This is looking kind of goosey. If I were to paint the little white thing on the head, which I'm not going to do now because it's not quite dry yet. If I were to do that, it would... This is the distinctive feature of the goose, is that white bit. It starts up here and goes down under the chin. That's going to take a couple of iterations before that works. The bill. From this side, it needs a little more black paint just here. That stays the same sort of glossy. That'll work pretty well. What have I got left? Like 9 minutes. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go ahead and do a base coat on the armor. I could talk about Dice and Dungeons and show you some dungeon tiles, but I don't want to be reaching over things and knocking things down, so I'm going to try to make a little bit more progress on the goose here by base coating the plate armor, somehow or other. Why? I don't know why. Plate armor that the goose is wearing. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to say that on Wednesday, I'm going to be sanding down the seams that I filled in with plastic putty today on the submarine. The submarine will come back, and I'll be working on that, sanding those down and getting the base ready to be spray painted, which I will do off screen and show everybody a week from Wednesday, or maybe even, I don't know, maybe even next Friday or a week from today, depending on how it goes. And also working on the other bits of the submarine that need to be filled in and sanded yet that haven't really been filled in yet. Got quite a lot of armor on here. And of course, it's got like a water skin or something there. Your models always have these kind of horn-shaped things because, you know, they're a pain to paint and they don't add anything to the features of the model, really. I'm getting to the whining and complaining stage of relaxing painting with dice and dungeons. Actually, this model isn't too bad. It's just so weird. It's not that hard, really, to paint. It's going to take a little more skill than I have, you know, to get the feathers, to get the base coat and the brown over the feathers looking good. But I've done that kind of thing before with sort of dry brushing, and it's turned out okay. Getting the white swoop on its head will be a little bit of a challenge because it'll have to be done freehand. You know, there's no markings on it at all anywhere. So getting it located right, getting it the right size and shape, and then getting it symmetric. So, you know, it's white and black, so I'm going to go a little bit heavy on the white part because the black should cover it pretty well. Coming back in the other direction if touching up needs to happen. I'm not sure how well the white, actually I'll be using ivory. I'm not sure how well that will cover the black. Guess we'll find out when it comes time to be doing all the touching up. Maybe that's leather armor. Doesn't look like it though. It looks like it's on the wing, but that's okay because that'll get 2 coats of paint on it before it gets over. Getting a lot of it on the wing. I might do some sort of like gray wash or something on the armor, I'm not sure. Just to make it look, I want it to be real shiny, but also kind of want it to have a little bit of texture, right? There. Yeah, it's getting a whole bunch of silvery paint on it. because, you know, it's easier to paint down over that later. I'm going to use sometimes we've used brown wash on armor like this, but I don't want, this guy doesn't have rusty armor. I might give a little bit of gray wash just to tone it down a little bit. Maybe dark gray wash. You know, probably some sort of wash on it just so you could see the texturing of it a little better. You know, like the creases and the different plates and things, and make it look a little less shiny. Unless we want the goose to look shiny. I'll have to talk to Nicole and Alexis about that when it gets to that point, and it's not near like that point yet. So this is a lute playing armored goose, a lute playing armored dire goose, because it's huge. And the lute's got all sorts of little wiggly things on it that need to be highlighted. Yeah, tell the back of the armor is here. The weird thing is that it's almost like it's riveted into its neck. Seriously. All right. So this is Goosey. The glossiness on the talons and the bill held up okay. I think the neck color is okay. I need to get the white swoop on the head, and if I can get that, then it will look like a goose, regardless of what happens to the rest of this. There's some details that need to be painted, like the bag here and the bag there. Okay, I might do those sooner than later. And then this whole thing, other than where I'm holding it, is going to get base coated in ivory. And then I'll be using a brown color, kind of dry brushed, to catch the wings, feathers on the wings and the legs and arms. And then the lute, I don't know what's going to happen with the lute. And that's going to take a lot of detail work. And then there's, just looking at it, there's so much detail on it. And then there's a connection between two of the fingers here, and that's just going to be really obvious if I don't clean that up. It'll look like its fingers are fused, because at this point its fingers are fused. Anyway, on Wednesday I'll be doing some submarine work. Not very much. I mean, it won't be well, the sanding could end up taking a good deal of time. So I'm still going to call it Submarine Wednesday, but it's not going to take the entire time. And so I'm going to be also doing an opening kind of reveal of the situation I've gotten myself into with the next model that I'll be working on, which is an Apollo spacecraft stack. The command module, the service module, and the lunar excursion module are all part of this model. It's really a cool model, and I'm hoping that it's in pretty good condition. I just busted off one of the fingers. Seriously, I can't. That happens so many times when I'm trying to clean it up with an X-Acto knife like that. That little detail just goes flying. And so trying to fix one part, I managed to, there's the finger. Huh. Trying to fix a finger, I managed to break a finger. Okay, I'm going to call it a day, because I'm actually past time right now by fair number of minutes. And I'm going to attempt to fix that finger off camera because I'm likely to make grumpy noises while I'm doing that. And I want to thank everybody for joining in. Yes, it is. It's a very silly goose. It's a ridiculous goose. It's a lute-playing, plate-armored, gigantic dire goose. It is just weird. So, yeah, you get to see me painting this goose on Friday. I'll be trying to get the little goose thing on the face here. You know, the white goose thing. I'd be trying to get that done. And I'll be base coating everything but the tail because that's the only place I can hold it. But after I sign off here, I'm going to fix the finger that I broke while I was trying to fix the finger. So thanks, everybody. I will see you on Wednesday, where I will be working on the submarine, but also transitioning into the next model I'm working on, which is an Apollo model. So I hope you join in then, because that should be pretty interesting to see what that model is going, what challenges are going to come from that. See you then. Bye.